Welcome to Tweet the Leader, new podcast where we chat about realistic leadership theories. On today's podcast, we welcome individuals, diverse leaders, people just in general, connecting from a human connection, knowing that they have passion in a subject, topic, area of interest. And today we're going to be going back into community conversations. It's really important to learn how to be diverse and have an open perspective. And today we have the amazing Jonah. I'm not gonna mispronounce your last name, but I want you to say your last name for me so that I can make sure that I can know for the future. But Jonah, welcome on today's episode. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you doing, Templeton?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. How do you pronounce your last name?
My last name is pronounced Senyange.
Senyange. Okay, please.
Senyange. Hmm.
Okay, awesome. So now I know Mr. Senyange that I have that and I will it'll take some time for sure. But I'm open now that we're talking about being diverse and open. I'm open to pronunciating that name correctly in future conversations. Juna, sometimes I've been traveling and being in different tables and settings where we've been having different community conversations and why community is important and what it does and how it impacts other people around us. You, as an individual, has a whole extensive background in equity, diversity, policy work, whatever. I can go, list can go on. But one thing to describe you that I've seen is that you're passionate about what you do. I want to start this openings, massage this conversation into the first question as to what makes community so diverse in your personal perspective?
Oh, thank you for that. When I think of community, it's honestly about shared interests, identity, and the different characteristics. One of the definitions around what community is from a poet, Pauli Murray, and
Mm,
they define community as, and I quote, true community is based upon equality,
mm,
mutuality, and
mm,
reciprocity. So it affirms that richness of individual diversity as well as the human ties that bind us together. So individual diversity really means that cultural awareness, our beliefs, our languages. But in order to create community, we need to understand and learn about others, right? And
mm,
to understand others, we need to know about ourselves. So, who are you? What is it that makes you who you are? I always revert back to saying, you know what, even brothers raised by the same parents are never the same. When you look at like culture, we all are different in that way. But to create community, we need to really understand others as well as understand ourselves. So that, in my opinion, is what helps make communities diverse.
that wow. Jonah, being mindful of so much things that's going on in community, and all that. I'm gonna add this other question that I didn't even give you. Like it always goes on to, do you think that our communities are connected right now? Do you feel connected with other communities here in Halifax? I'm coming from a different part of the province because I know you lived in Toronto, then you moved here and you moved to other different. But do you feel that there's a community here in Halifax, Nova Scotia?
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, communities around shared interests and identities and different characteristics. You see, like there's a huge African Nova Scotian community within
Mm-hmm.
Halifax that you wouldn't even find essentially elsewhere. There's also when you think of like the LGBTQ community, when you think of like different avenues like that, having lived in different other provinces, I've found communities easily built in Halifax than other places. In a sense of like on a rather global scale, but that doesn't take away the fact that there's still communities in the bigger cities, in the bigger provinces So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but
You did, definitely, definitely you did. I think that that's really important. And thinking from building. We're always building. I
yeah,
think that we're always building daily, monthly, every second, every minute, we're building. And I've been talking about building from a human approach a lot. I think that that human approach, connecting with individuals, hearing their stories, hearing where they're coming from, learning about what they are doing and how it connects with all of the work that we are doing, and stuff like that. How do you build? That's the question. How can we build? I would change that phrase. How can we build a better community by using human centered approaches?
yeah. That's an interesting one because I think I got an aha moment recently from Augie Jones, who gave a wonderful keynote speech around empathizing with
Hmm.
others.
Mm,
So when I think of building better community using a human-centered approach, really, it's focusing on creating better experiences for others, building that resilience. But
right,
that all stems from what I had mentioned earlier. When you're trying to understand others, it involves empathizing with others, right?
right. Hmm. Hmm.
For another key thing I learned from a friend was around focusing on the whys. Why
Hmm.
do you want to do what you want to do?
Uh-huh.
When you get back to finding the reason for doing something, you're
Hmm.
always going back and seeking those opinions.
Yeah,
So when you think of human-centric designs, especially coming from, like, let's say, a technology standpoint, it's always taking into account, okay, whom is this going to impact, right?
mm,
Why are we doing it rather
yeah,
than just doing it and hoping that, it will work? Talking about hope, the other thing I always think about building communities with a human centric approach is around optimism. So,
mm,
believing that it is possible.
yeah,
A
yeah,
lot of times we want things to be done and have this crazy timeline of how
yeah,
fast we want it to be done.
right.
And in that, we lose sight of what is possibly ahead.
Hmm. Hmm.
But that optimism helps in not keeping people uh, excited and engaged about the prospects that are there for community and building that resilience. A lot of communities have been through so much,
Yeah,
but have stayed together and stayed uh, really gotten ahead simply because of that optimism of, like, it could be better.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow. That's so important. And I love that you said knowing your why. That that that's important, and I always try to say that to myself in my daily routine, remembering my why. My why is all the way back from being an island boy back in the Bahamas, knowing that I have struggled, knowing in different ways of academia and in different ways of using my leadership skills to grow to get here today, to be passionate to do the work that I'm doing today, through my family, who have been my why as well, through their passion of education and their passion of wanting to grow into different ways of community, into developing that. It's a part of who we are. It's a part of our story, to help us to grow. And there's three questions that I always ask, and you pinpoint a little bit of it. Is like, why are you presenting what you are presenting? Why are you saying this? What is this going to help community, and how is this going to make community move forward? That considers us to move forward with community, but also thinking about what is that message that you want people to hear when building and when trying to advocate for some type of cause, to affect a positive change in the community, and then knowing how this is all going to come together and how this is going to bring a community, to unite and to feel that they're welcome, to feel that they're heard and stuff like that. So there's like so much areas that we can pull out of ways of how to build community. And what you shared today, Jonah, on that part is really important. It's
Yeah.
just really important. Yeah, yeah. I feel that we're getting this way of telling our stories, telling impactful ways of community. And I want to ask a different question before I go into the other question, but I'm going to segment it as like, how does stories help with community? How does storytelling help when going into community? How does that bring about? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that because I recently gave like a keynote
Mm-hmm.
on how storytelling is an important tool
Mm-hmm.
in driving diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Mm,
We all have stories that we carry. Sometimes some people think their stories are not, good enough or they're not as impactful enough.
yeah,
But I think of a story as it evokes some kind of emotion within people.
yeah,
We talked about the human centric approach and stuff like that. Through sharing stories, there's a connection that you build with people, right?
right.
Again, communities build around shared interests, identity. So you may mention something of like, oh, I've gone through this, and someone's like, I've been there, I can help you through that. And that's how you build either a mentorship relationship or a networking relationship because you've been vulnerable enough to share what you've gone through, but someone's like,
Mm,
oh, I've been through that. Collectively, we can make it better. That and
right,
someone else doesn't have to go through that, right?
right, yeah,
So that's how storytelling is embedded in a lot of things
right,
to move the needle, and if I can use it in that sense. But
yeah,
even in terms of like building community, right? Like I said,
right,
when you we need to try and understand others, and the best way you can do that is when you share your story, but they also share their story, right?
mm, mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm,
get that human connection. I also see it through my work where we've built it around the human centric approach. Just
mm,
people know exactly whom they're dealing with, and it helps to get work done. So yeah, like
yeah,
I,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
really
get,
yeah, it's really a powerful thing, and we could go on for hours about the impact of storytelling. But in a nutshell, that is what
mhm.
I think is important for community building anyway, from that standpoint.
Wow, that's really good. It's good to hear that side, that point of view. You know, you talking about your work, and you mentioned a bit about your work. I want to learn what type of work that you're doing right now. What work and how is it being very impactful in the community? I know that you talked about doing a little bit of keynote, a little bit of presentation. Let's talk about you now, and what do you do in your work that helps build community? Yeah.
Yeah, so I work for a firm, P4G. So
Mm,
it's a socially conscious recruitment firm. So
mhm.
we're trying to, again, humanize the workplaces.
Yeah,
So doing things totally different from how they've been traditionally done because we know that the traditional way of doing things has
right,
excluded a lot of people from different opportunities.
right,
So, in a day to day basis, really, also we are a community interest company,
yeah,
CIC for short,
yeah,
which one of the very few in Halifax,
right,
where we're mandated to actually reinvest 60% of our profits into community.
mhm,
So, it's wonderful to be a part of something like that.
mhm,
When you're doing recruitment, we're trying to do values alignment recruitment. So, staying away from hiring for culture fit.
Yeah.
We don't like the word fit, but
Mm,
hiring people for the contribution that they bring into the workplace. But how to get to that is through relationships, right?
yeah.
Our process involves some kind of meditation,
Hmm.
and then just like really hearing what people want. What is your ideal workplace? What do you want to get out of the job? What transferable skills do you have from either your volunteering and everything like that?
Yeah.
So throughout that process, you build such a connection with the candidates
Yeah.
to be able to
Yeah.
get them into those opportunities. And because we're trying to break a lot of different barriers,
Right.
we've seen that now within the last year or so, over 70% of the people that we've placed into jobs are from equity deserving groups,
Um,
which, and most of them are also within leadership positions.
yeah.
So it's moving the needle from a different standpoint. We also noticed that, you know what, as we were doing that recruitment, we were placing people into workplaces, but sometimes workplaces may not be ready.
Yeah.
So we had to build out this diversity, equity, and inclusion wing
Hmm.
to just like help employers with being able to, you know, embrace the
Yeah.
differences within our communities.
Right.
And yeah, it's been interesting on a daily basis. It's never the same, but there's a lot of like human interaction. There's a lot of research in terms of like what is really happening, the trends, and
Mm,
you know, we have to keep up and always have kind of like better practices,
right.
right? When you think of like our communities and even individuals, we're all different. So
Hmm.
the process is not cookie cutter in that way that like all everyone goes through exactly the same
Right.
experience.
Right.
It's all different. Like even the same candidates going for the same job get a different experience out of it because
Yeah.
it's about that values alignment, who they
Hmm.
are at the core of themselves as human beings
Yeah.
in relation to the job. I know you probably enjoy the work that you do, and
Yeah.
when you have the passion to do the work that you do,
Yeah.
it's something else, right? And that is what
Totally.
we want everyone to be able to
Feel. Hmm.
feel as they go through this life. So
Hmm.
step
Hmm.
by step, changing the way things are being done. Uh,
Right.
the community, both here in Halifax and around the country, has been very receptive to the services that we offer,
Right.
and we're only seeing great things from here on. And yeah, like we'll, you know, you probably will see a lot of us in community too. Like I said, as a CIC, we that is who we want to be, just like a part of our community moving forward, and have always been. And you can always check out the impact report that's also on the
Yeah.
website on like the different things that have happened within the last few years.
Yeah.
We've only been in business for 5 years, but made some considerable changes, so
Yeah.
that's amazing.
It's all about the impact. It's all about the impact, and I love that you call the impactful report, which brings it more into impact perspective, which is really good. And I love that you touch base on that's the goal of trying to allow persons to feel passionate about what they do in their individual job. And I'm passionate about what I do at Teamwork Cooperative, and I say that um, loudly a lot, and it's not because I'm trying to get a job or a new promotion or something like that. I say it because I truly mean it. I have a position where I'm able to be myself. I'm able to grow different skills. I'm able to build personal projects that connects with the work. And I'm able to partner with other organizations such as your organization, such as Center for Employment Innovation, and to do all about community building. And being a community builder is important. That segues into my next question. What are the values and the passion, I would say, yeah, values and skill passions that a community builder should have when moving forward into this area of work.
Yeah, when I think of that, I don't know whether it's like skills or passions or whatever, but I was
Mhm,
raised by a politician, and
mhm,
to even get into office, you need votes.
mhm, mhm.
So you need to rally people to give you the votes to get into that.
Yeah,
In that sense, that is also where my passion for community came from.
right.
You know, I saw the work that my mother did.
Mhm,
And when I always think of like a community builder, she's been out of politics now for about 10 years, but still is as involved. But
yeah.
I always think of that community builder as someone who has that ability to mobilize others. So you're going
Mhm,
above and beyond. And,
right.
you know, you almost represent that kind of quiet determination that inspires others to act. So you're leading by example.
Right.
So that for me is what I think of like community builder, because we always say, you know what, all these things, but it's you need to walk the talk.
Yes.
But even
Yes.
as you're walking that talk, you're inspiring others to be like, oh, he's doing it. Like, let me do it. Like, what am I doing on this? You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that for me is what I think a community builder is.
Wow. Well said. Well said. Bravo. Standing ovation. That's really good to share that and to know that you come from a family of community builders, which gives you that passion. And some people don't have that opportunity, but we're fortunate sometimes to be surrounded and connected. And I totally agree. Make sure you have a body of allies, persons who support the work that you're doing, who's going to connect you with other people, and that's how um, I got connected with you because I heard about what you're doing and hearing what spaces you're in and stuff like that. And I said like, oh no, I need to know who this Judah person is, and I need to connect, and I need to make that connection from a friendship level, from personal connection. Just it's all about the connection that brings us together for
Yeah.
community. And you know, as we close today, at Tweet to Lead a New Podcast, we always try to leave a quote, saying, or passion that will inspire our community to move forward. So, Mr. Jonah, what is that quote, word, or saying that you will leave for us as we continue to be inspired?
I actually have two things. Maybe I guess like a quote and then also like a tip or something like that. You
Yeah,
mentioned something
yeah,
about connections, but
yeah.
I'll start with that tip. So, although it is up to us individually to create our destiny, it is through the connections with others that elevates us all to personal and professional joy. So that
Mhm.
is definitely like a tip for
Yeah,
anyone out there who's listening.
yeah,
And a quote is really one that most recently I read and I really loved. It's from uh, Martin Luther King's daughter,
yeah.
who, uh, and I quote: "What we need to do is learn to respect and embrace our differences until our differences do not make a difference in how we are treated." That's from
Wow.
Yolanda King.
Wow.
It's so powerful, especially for the work that I do,
Yeah.
but also for everything I mentioned today around understanding others and also understanding ourselves.
Wow. Wow. That's powerful. Understanding others to understanding ourselves in order to and also to understand others. Connection. It's all about connecting the work in order to move forward. Wow, Jonah, this has been an amazing conversation. Definitely, I have to welcome you on back onto this conversation and to another podcast that I host at my work, the neighborhood conversations. But it's all bringing it all together into the neighborhood in order to connect, in order to bring vibrant energy, in order for us to make impactful action causes. And at Tweet the Leader New Podcast, we try to welcome on leaders and bring them on just to hear their thoughts. And I thank you so much for coming on to today's podcast episode. And we look forward to connecting soon. Thank you so
Uh,
much.
well, thank you for having me. Thank you so much.